Hey everybody, what's going on? Saturday, February the 17th, 2024, 12:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All Q&A today. No topic, no main topic. All Q&A. Let's just have a question and answer Q&A time. Whatever questions you have, we'll see who rolls on it. And this is impromptu, not planned. People are just getting up on the West Coast, maybe even on the East Coast if you've slept in, I don't know. But yeah, we'll just answer some questions, see who rolls on in, if anybody does, maybe people will. It's the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters this year. The 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street this year. The 20th anniversary of Saw this year. The 40th anniversary of Beverly Hills Cop this year. Crazy, crazy stuff. The 30th anniversary of The Shawshank Redemption this year. I mean, it's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And, of course, the 50th anniversary of Black Christmas this year. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that. Hey, here's our first super chat that comes in from Kevin Kruger. Sends in $1.99. Says, what are your top 5 found foot movies? Found foot movies. Let me see. What sort of foots have been found? What sort of foots have been found? Assuming you mean found footage movies. Oh, geez. You know what? I really like Chronicle from 2012. I think it was 2012. I actually quite like that movie. I quite like the first, or was it the second? Maybe it was the second Paranormal Activity. I actually quite liked. And then, of course, Blair Witch, I think I would throw. Listen, I like the Blair Witch Project, I do, but I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm like over the moon with it, but I do like it. I mean, it's a classic. It's you know, there's a number of reasons why that's got a lot of mystique around it. So I'll throw the Blair Witch Project in there. But that's 3. I would say probably. Hell, why am I drawing a blank on this now? I'm going to just look this up because I'm going to Cloverfield. That's it. Cloverfield. Cloverfield, I would definitely throw in there. I haven't watched Cloverfield in quite a while, but I quite liked that movie. So I would say Cloverfield for sure. And then one more. I don't know. Let me do a quick Google search. I don't know. I try to think of what are found footage movies. Let me see here. The Visit? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's a very good question. I don't really know. The 5th one could be kind of up for discussion. I'm not really sure. Very good question, but I'm not really sure. The 5th one is open for me right now. I'm not really seeing one here that. Oh, you know what? Was The Last Exorcism, was that found footage? I think it kind of was. If the Last Exorcism was found footage, I'll throw The Last Exorcism in there. That's a good one though. That's a good one. Simon Mills says, I'm 40 this year as well. 25th anniversary of The Matrix and Star Wars Episode 1. That is true. Yep. Yeah, 25 years for them. Hard to believe. It's been a long time. Been a long, long time. Janine Winnicombe says, Dave, when did you officially become a professional voiceover actor? Why do I look sort of, oh, you know what? Do I have that, hang on a sec. Do I have that thing on? Hang on. 1 second, folks. 1 second here. Do I have that thing on? I think I might. Wait, hang on. 1 second. I feel like I might have that. Hang on. Do I? No, I don't. Okay. Thought I had the thing on. My face looks a little, maybe it's just my eyes. I would say, when did I become a professional voice actor? Well, I stepped into the entertainment business on a professional level in 2001. So that's sort of where I always kind of like my anniversary so I've been in the business for 23 years now. And then I would say probably on the voiceover side, because I started off as an on-camera actor. So I would say on the voiceover side, probably since 2005, because that's when I landed my first agent for voiceover, was in 2005. So what's that, 19 years now? Yeah, it's a long time. It's a long time. Let me see. Kevin Kruger sends in another $1.99. Thank you, Kevin Kruger. Oh yeah, baby. What are your least favorite horror franchises? Ooh, I like it. What are my least favorite horror franchises? I would say some of my least favorite horror franchises would be... very good question. What are some of my least favorite horror franchises? 1 second. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I guess that's all right. What are some of my least favorite horror franchises? I would say that. Actually, you know what? I'll put that over. Oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out here in this new setup. My least favorite horror franchises. Least favorite horror franchises. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the Child's Play franchise. Like I'm taking the question literally, right? Like at face value. What are your least favorite horror franchises? So I would say, well, I'm not a huge fan of the Child's Play franchise. I don't think it's very good. So I do like the original film, of course, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what the question was, right? We're talking about franchises overall. You know, you could, I mean, and again, from a certain point of view, you could, I mean, you could make I might be able to make an argument and say even Halloween from a certain point of view, right? When we're talking about franchise, like a franchise as a whole, because there's so many starts and stops and this way and that way and this way and that way. But of course, your love for the character and that original film and, you know, sort of kind of surpasses that any sort of, you know, but if we're just talking about franchises that I just don't like overall, yeah, Child's Play would be one. I would say, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. Again, when we talk, again, like we got to get very specific with the question, right? What are your least favorite franchises? So I'm looking at the franchise as a whole, as an entire whole, not particular movies, not the character in and of itself, the franchise. So where the story went, where the characters went, the starts, the stops, the, you know, the good, bad, the, you know, all that kind of stuff. And Friday the 13th for me, I mean, although you have to give credit where credit is due, it was canonical. I mean, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think, but Jason Goes to Hell lives in the same universe as the original Friday the 13th. It's wild, but it's true. And you got to give credit where credit is due, I guess, that they didn't start and stop. Or stop and start, I should say. But I'm just trying to think, like overall, like I have no interest. So I'm going to take Halloween and Friday out, but I think those franchises, you know, as a whole, you could say the same thing about Elm Street, right? But I think I know what you mean when you say that. What you really mean is, no, just tell me a franchise that you just don't watch, that you don't like, that you couldn't care less about. That's really, I think, what you mean, right? I'm taking it far too literally. So I would say, yeah, Child's Play, not a big fan. I would say, you know, Hellraiser. Again, that doesn't mean I don't like the first installments of those movies, but, you know, overall, I would say Leprechaun. Don't give a shit about that. I would say, you know what? This is going to sound bad, but I would say Saw, you know, overall. I know I haven't seen Saw 10 yet, and I'm not likely to see it anytime soon. Sorry, folks. But I like the first movie, and I didn't mind the first couple films, but overall Saw just I just don't care. I just don't care. So Saw is probably a franchise that I just don't really care about, really. But again, that doesn't mean I don't think that first movie's great. Again, we're talking about franchises. And then I would say, I don't know if I should throw Scream in there. It's sort of, I would say that Scream, is a situation where, and I've said this here on the channel, that Scream hasn't had a bad movie. I mean, if Scream 3 is your worst in the franchise, you're doing pretty well. There's a lot of horror franchises that would love to have, their worst movie be as bad as Scream 3. And Scream 3 is not bad. It's just sort of maybe a little underwhelming and, in compare, it's not a horrific film. It's not Halloween 5 or Resurrection. But the franchise overall, I think I don't really, but again, the question was, what are your top 5 worst franchises, right? That's what you said. Excuse me, least favorite. Okay, well yeah. Okay, well I'll say Scream, I'll say that, because I'm not huge on it. So yeah, Scream, Leprechaun, Hellraiser, what was the other one I said? Child's Play, and I don't know. I got to think. I don't really think about this kind of stuff. So I got to think. But it's a good question. Brandon Collins says, Scream has been the most consistently good. Yeah, I think you're right. They've been the most consistently good, but I think that's because they've been the most consistently the same. And they've moved things. It's not that they haven't taken any risks, but I don't particularly find the Scream films, when you watch Scream 2022, it's a Scream movie. It's safe. It's a Scream movie. Even Scream 6 as now it's going to be different. We're going to New York. Oh, get ready. It was a Scream movie. I mean, sure, the setting was a bit different. Yeah, for sure. But because it wasn't shot in New York and they're not running through the streets of Manhattan, and really you only get a sense of it being New York because of the B-roll, establishing shots. I mean, okay, you're in New York. All right, sure. But it's really Montreal. And as a Canadian, I can recognize it. So, and that's fine. I mean, it's cheaper to shoot up here. You get the tax breaks and, people shoot in Toronto all the time and say you would be stunned at the movies you think are New York that are actually Toronto. But nonetheless, I digress. But I didn't feel New York any more than I felt it with Jason Takes Manhattan, which was shot in Vancouver. Now, there were a few, obviously there was the Times Square shot of him going, and kicking the boombox, and that's all fine. But I didn't, but you're right. I mean, the principle of what you're saying is right. Every Scream movie, I don't know if I would go as far as say every Scream movie is good, although I guess you could say that, but then good to what degree? Some are better than others. I think I would say, if it was me, I'd say the Scream films have been the most consistent, and there isn't a bad entry in the franchise. So in principle, I get what you're saying, and I would agree with that. But I'm at a point, and I admit I'm not the world's biggest Scream fan, but I'm at a point now where I really want to see something different. I don't mean remove the DNA, but like I've talked about on this channel ad nauseum, about just kind of, it's a formula that it's predictable. Like we know how it's going to go. It's a Scooby-Doo episode, right? So, somebody is angry at something about something, they need something, and it's revenge on something, and it's usually connected to somebody's past, and okay, that's fine. And then we get to the end of the movie, and there's the ruh-roh. There's the Scooby-Doo moment. They take the mask off. Oh, no, it was you. And then the killer spends the next, 5 minutes explaining why they're so evil. And then, and then they end up dying. And, and to be fair, that is the that is the structure of a whodunit, and the Scream movies are whodunit films. So generally speaking, I don't even think you could say generally. I would say in most cases, almost all cases, whodunits never end on cliffhangers, because that's not the formula of, you don't end a whodunit on a cliffhanger, because you're supposed to know who did it by the end of the movie. But I've always wanted them to change it up a little bit. Because I think we've established that now, and you could always extend the reveal into the next movie, right? You don't have to have your who, especially now that you're established as one of the titans in the slasher subgenre. I don't think you have to have a Scream movie end with knowing who the killer is. I don't think you have to do that. I think you could actually delay the gratification, delay the reveal until the next movie, so you carry it over. That would be interesting to me. But anyways, again, I digress. But Scream, yeah, they are consistent for sure. Definitely. I mean, in comparison to the other Freddy, Jason, Michael, my God, it's not even comparable, ladies and gentlemen. Not even comparable. Kevin Kruger follows up with another one, $4.99. Thanks, buddy. He says, do you think it's corny when people like their own Facebook posts? I do. I've never quite understood it. I've talked about this before. Maybe you've followed me for some time and you've seen me talk about this. I always find it interesting that people will like their own posts. And I learned, of course, not too long ago, that I don't know if this is the same with Facebook, but it's certainly here on YouTube. Obviously, the more likes a comment will get, the higher in the comment chain your comment will appear. So I guess people feel, maybe there's a psychological thing where people feel, well, and because you can't see, like see on Facebook, I can see that you've liked your own post. On YouTube, I can't see that you've liked your own post. Unless you make a comment and there's a like after 8 seconds, chances are that's you liking your own post. And I think there's a psychological thing. I think people feel that, if somebody sees that at least somebody has liked my post, then that will psychologically potentially, start sort of the chain of events of people liking my post. But I've never liked my own posts. I mean, clearly, and again, maybe it's because I'm taking it literally, but clearly I like my post. I don't need to actually like my post. Obviously, I like my post because I've made the post. So clearly I agree with what's being said in my own post because I made it. So I don't need to like it to, to add another layer of reassurance that, hey, I've not. But you see on YouTube, again, in the comment section on YouTube, you can't tell who's liked a post. You can see how many likes there are, but you can't tell who's liked it. So, but I've always found that weird. And I mean, no disrespect to people who do it. If you do it on YouTube, there's an argument to be made. You can say, well, yeah, it's because, there's a lot of likes. And maybe that's the same thing with Facebook and X and Instagram, that the comment with the most likes always goes to the top. And ultimately, that's why people do that, right? They get the ball rolling. But I've never done it. I've never done it because I've always found it a little self-indulgent. It's just, or, a little too self-indulgent. I mean, not that I can't be self-indulgent. We all can, but a little too self-indulgent. I'm going to make this post and I'm going to like it. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, well, obviously you like it. You made the post, Are you going to make a post you don't like? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I digress on that. Let's see. Power Packers 90 says Scream 3 is genius as it basically calls out Weinstein a decade before people found out that he was a creep. I'm not as familiar with Scream 3 as you are, so I can't really speak to that. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if it was, again, right, there's a lot of things that end up being coincidences that people sort of try to back engineer and make connections to, right? You'll see that a lot, with the Simpsons episodes, right? Oh, the Simpsons predicted this, the Simpsons predicted that. The Simpsons didn't predict shit. What the Simpsons have done, the Simpsons are very, the writers, and same with, Family Guy and American, all these type of shows that lean heavily. I mean, mind you, Family Guy leans the most heavily into this because it's built on their DNA. That being said, a lot of the writers on these shows are very aware of pop culture and very aware of the trends and the patterns and what's hot and what's coming down the pipe and all these things, because it's why we're able to relate to these shows a lot. Again, Family Guy is built all around that. The Simpsons, they don't do the constant cutaway gags and all that kind of stuff. But the Simpsons writers are I mean, they've had their pulse on society and where we're at and all this kind of stuff, right? And it's like when they said they predicted that Donald Trump would run for president. Donald Trump's been saying he was going to run for president since the 80s. So is it unprecedented that they would make some sort of show back in the early 90s where Donald Trump was president? Well, no, of course not. Because if I'm just saying, look it up. Trump has been on talk. There's old talk shows of him on Oprah, in the 80s. And there's shows that I think I'm going to run for president. Well, I don't know, but I think I will. And it's not as magical as we would like to think it is. Again, if you're writing for a television show that has its pulse on trends, pop culture, society, what's hot, what's not, you can predict a lot of things that sometimes do end up coming true. But it's like being a psychic, right? And again, I'm not saying that the phenomenon doesn't exist. I don't know. There's obviously charlatans out there. There are obviously people that are bullshit that just want to take your money. For sure, that absolutely exists. Are there people out there that do have a certain gift? We'll call it a gift, that they can somehow tap into something? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And it's okay to say I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know. Just because it can be replicated in bullshit, it doesn't mean that there isn't truth to it. There's a lot of things that have truth to it that can also be replicated and bullshitted as well, right? But let's take a charlatan, for example, right? We sometimes, remember the hits, but we forget the misses. So, all the Simpsons have to do is predict something, 5 times. Oh my God, 5 times. Yeah, but what about all those shows over the last nearly 35 years that they've done stuff that haven't come true? I mean, there's probably hundreds and thousands of those things too, right? So, again, I hear what you're saying, and because I don't know Scream 3 as well as you clearly do, I stand to be corrected. Maybe it's come out that Wes was like, oh, no, I knew he was a creep then, and I was doing this, and it's subliminal, and it's in there, and it's all this kind of stuff. And clearly Weinstein has been a creep for decades. We know that. But is it predicting? I don't know. You know what I mean? I have no idea. But I do find those things fascinating, and I know it kind of takes the romanticism out of it to take it so literally. But I do find that, I don't know, maybe that's one of the things that grinds my gears. Not what you've said, Power Packers, but how easily people in general. I'm speaking in general now. How easily people are fooled. It goes back to my pet peeve video where I see so many fake videos. And when I say fake videos, I don't mean bad CGI and production value. I just mean, like I said on that show, you have videos of people that are clearly acting. They're actors. It's bad acting, like somebody trips and falls in public, or somebody smashes something, or and there are it is mind-blowing to me how many people in the comment section all just believe it. They believe it. And no wonder we're so easily manipulated. No wonder we're so easy to fool, and now with AI and everything, I mean, God, oh my God, like it's crazy to me. It's crazy. So, anyways, I digress. What else is new? But yeah. Power Packers follows him and says, one of the Simpsons writers has even joked and said, I guess I should put my lotto numbers in the episodes. Yeah, why not? That'd be amazing. But yeah, no, there are definitely some Simpsons, some Simpsons episodes, right, where it looks like, oh, they've predicted this, or they predicted that. The Simpsons have done it again. But in reality, it's fun to think that, but in reality, if you break it down, there are reasons for the coincidences, right? You know what I mean? So, again, go back to the late 80s or early 90s. What's hot in pop culture? Donald Trump's thinking about running for president. Hey, I got an idea, guys. Let's do an episode where Donald Trump's president. No one ever thought it was actually going to happen. And then it happens, 20 years later, and it looks like the Simpsons are geniuses, when in reality, they were just following the trends of what was going on at that time, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, why do you think actors in the later Halloween films like Hartnett, Williams, Rudd, Olivia Spencer, I think you mean Octavia Spencer, had better careers going forward than those in the earlier films like Danielle Harris? Well, we have to keep in mind that Danielle Harris was a child actor, right? So it is very rare that child stars, it's very rare. It is the minority. It's the minority that a child star will have a flourishing child star career and as equally as an adult. It's very rare, very rare. It does happen, but it's rare, right? Look at Macaulay Culkin, look at Dakota Fanning, look at Elijah Wood, right? 3 huge child stars that are still working today as adults, but they're not A-listers like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, whatever the case is. And very few people are. Let me first say that. Very few people are. The vast majority of working actors are not A-list stars, right? Again, you look at SAG-AFTRA, there's like 160,000 members, and only like 1 or 2% are even working full-time, making a living at it. These are real facts, folks. And then I think it's like 2 to 3% or something. And then it's even like 1% are like, the Tom Cruises of the world, right? So I need to say that. I mean, I don't want people to think I'm not being fair. But it is it's in the minority. So Danielle Harris was a child actor, and she was good, and she was a successful child actor. I think we could agree. There's degrees of success. I mean, there's Macaulay Culkin and there's Elijah Wood, who were huge successes as kids. But then of course there's like Danielle Harris, right, who was in Halloween 4, Halloween 5. She was in Daylight with Sylvester Stallone, I believe. Was she in The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis? I think she was. She had reoccurring stints on Roseanne, right? I mean, as a child star, when I say child star, I mean, anywhere between 7 and 8 to 18. When you're a young star, she was successful. But as you get older, there's a number of factors that can come into play, right? So who are your managers? Who are your agents? And one of the most important things, who are your parents, right? And how does that relationship affect you moving forward in your career? What do you want to do? A lot of child stars, there are exceptions, but a lot of child stars do not get into, and yes, Brandon, you're right, Jodie Foster is the exception to that. I would say she is a exception, not the exception, because there are other examples, but that's a really good example. But it's not the majority, right? And so, when you look at who the parents are, who the managers are, and keep in mind that not all kids, but a lot of kids don't get into acting because they really want to do it. They may show a flair for it. They may be charismatic. They may be funny. They may be outgoing and social and very social. And they may be in some school plays. And, the mom says, oh, wait, we should get you an agent, or we should put you in some, I don't know, popsicle commercials. But it usually isn't the choice of the child. So when the child becomes older, there's a lot of child stars that you don't hear about anymore, not because they necessarily had bad experiences or horrible parents, but they grew out of it. They don't care. They don't want to be an actor. They did it for a bit, and now they're 18. They want to go to college. They want to go to university. They want to become a police officer or a firefighter or a doctor, a lawyer, or a business person, or they want to just, a veterinarian. They want to just become, they want to take a business class and own their own business. They want to, there's all kinds of courses, that have nothing to do with the entertainment business. And that happens too, right? I don't know Danielle. I've never talked to her, so I don't know the trajectory of her life, what her relationship was like with her parents and things like that. But her life as a child star and the movies that she's continued to be in, which is mostly indie horror films. Excuse me, certainly in her later career as an adult. As a teenager, she still was kind of, like I said, she was in Daylight with Sly. I think so. But certainly as an adult, yeah, she's in that B movie horror kind of thing, and she seems to be happy with it. But she's also a mom. She's got 2 kids, and so there's a number of factors, Rob. A number of factors. It's never. And let's be honest. To be fair, talent plays a huge part as well. Not that Danielle was not a talented young little girl, but when I look at some are more talented than others, but there's a number of factors. It's very difficult. If you, it's not something I would bet on, right? I wouldn't bet on having, a child become a hugely successful adult actor. And Brandon's right. Jodie Foster is a exception. And there's other examples as well. But the vast majority of young child stars do not become huge adult stars. And when I say adult stars, I don't mean adult stars. I mean, A-list stars as adults. Scared Straight Production says, don't tell the mom the babysitter's dead. Yeah, that's right. She was in that as well. Chuck M0503 says, Corey Feldman has definitely maintained his career through the years. What a talent. Has he? I don't know about that. I would say Corey Feldman is a product of that exact thing that I'm talking about. He's obviously a name. He's still there because he was one of the biggest 80s child stars around. I mean, he was bigger than Sean Astin. He was bigger than, Macaulay Culkin was at the end of the decade and a lot younger. But I would say that Corey Feldman is a name. Yes, he's definitely a name. He's one of those 80s stars like, Scott Baio or like an 80s name that you would know, right? But I wouldn't necessarily say that his career has flourished. I mean, his career has not flourished. He was a big 80s star, The Goonies, Friday the 13th, Stand By Me, License to Drive, his films with Corey Haim, The Burbs, for sure, absolutely. But when the 90s rolled around, Corey Feldman didn't exactly continue to take off. There's a lot of people there's a lot of child stars that when they become older, they will live in the height for what they reached, right? The pinnacle of their careers will live in a certain decade. And there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, there's a variety of reasons why that is. Talent is one, managers, agents, relationship with your parents. Are you even into doing this? Do you want, is this something you always wanted to do? Or are you just kind of done and you want to move on and go to college and, and do something else with your life? There's a lot of variables on why child stars don't become, adult stars, but you know what I mean, right? And for Corey Feldman, he was one of those big names in the 80s, right? And of course, if you believe what he says about, and there's no reason not to, about a lot of the problems and the abuse and all that kind of stuff, that's a whole other show and a whole other topic. But I would not say, but Corey Feldman, he's most famous for him as a child, right? He's never really flourished as an 80s act or as a an actor today. I mean, he's still in things from here, from time to time, but his claim to fame is the 80s. He lives in that decade, and there's certain actors that I think will always be. Danielle Harris might be one. I think Macaulay Culkin, you know what I mean? Elijah Wood, of course, had the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was great, but Elijah Wood has never, beyond Lord of the Rings, which he was a young adult, so he was like in his 20s then, but beyond Lord of the Rings, you've got to go back to, you go back to Forever Young, you go back to, The Good Son, of course, which he was in with Macaulay Culkin. He was in Paradise, he was in The Radio Flyer, but these are all films of him as a child, right? And so, and again, I ask my viewers to instill nuance. I'm not saying that Elijah Wood has not been in other movies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he hasn't been in other movies that you might like or good movies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about a certain threshold of a career, a certain level of success, or a certain sort of next level. Elijah Wood, of course, within, he's been in a lot of movies since then. But he's never really reached the heights of Lord of the Rings since. And so he's been sort of in that, and maybe that's where he wants to live. Maybe that's where he wants to be, right? Again, we don't know. There's a variety of reasons. But it's interesting. It's interesting. But I disagree on the Corey Feldman thing. I think Corey Feldman is an 80s icon, yes. But I wouldn't necessarily say that he's somebody that has, turned his career in the same ways that Jodie Foster has. I don't think that's even close. Oh, you should have put the sarcasm face. Well, you definitely should have put the sarcasm face. Remember, it's difficult for me I take everything at face value. If somebody says something, I take everything at face value because I don't know, right? I don't know you. I don't know your humor. I don't know. So I'm taking it at face value. That's the way it's got to be. Edward Nitos. But I get you. Yeah. Sarcasm. Tongue firmly planted in cheek. Edward Nito sends in $20. Says, sup, Dave? I hope you're doing well, man. Thank you for the very generous super chat, by the way. I appreciate it. My bro and I are hyped for IMDb 2. Thank you very much. I was checking out Netflix and noticed they have a scary movies and a horror movies section. You wouldn't see that at your local video store. Cheers. Yeah, well, that's because Netflix, what they do, and a lot of streamers do this, and I've talked about this before. Netflix will like they want to create the like the vast majority of the titles on Netflix are shit you've never heard of, right? So what they tend to do is they tend to create these arbitrary categories. So they can fill in, so they can put the same movie in like 8 different, so it creates the illusion that there's more than that there's more options than there really is. Like there's no reason why we should be seeing, I don't know, take like, again, the Terminator, right? Or T2. You put it in sci-fi. I'm serious, put it in the sci-fi section. But it's a horror movie. It's a science. But they're saying it's a slide. I don't agree with those who say it's a slide. Like, anyways, don't get me on my soapbox, folks. I don't want to spend another 80 minutes on my soapbox. I just want to say that I do not agree with those that like to paint certain movies with 8 different subgenres. I do not agree that the Terminator is a slasher movie. Just because it may have elements and similarities to a slasher movie does not make it a slasher film. And I know that there's a lot of people that's I've just ripped their hearts out and they will but Dave, what about what? That's fine. You are free to say that. But I do not agree. You are free to believe that it is, but it is, to me, it is not. The Terminator, there's an argument to be made that you could say it's a sci-fi horror film, sure. But going as far as to say that it lives in the slasher subgenre because you have somebody who's stalking somebody, no. I'm sorry, I disagree. If we cannot, I don't know what it is with this world where, it's like the cousin to how we throw words around so haphazardly, right? It's just like, the GOAT or it's the greatest of all time. It's like, it's iconic, legend. Like words mean something. Words mean something. And just because something is popular doesn't mean that it's iconic. Just because something is popular doesn't mean that it's a legend. Legend and icon should be reserved for longevity. That's my opinion, because you can come and go and like that. Or depending on your impact, right? If you can hit the pop culture, like look at Janis Joplin, right? Not around for very long. She died when she was, 27. Look at Jim Morrison. Not around for very long. So you could say, well, they weren't around for very long. What about that? Yes, but then you have to look at pop culture impact, right? And sort of the staying power and pop culture impact in that time, like in that sort of like how hard they hit, they came and went, but their music, the longevity comes from their staying power, right? Even though they're dead, it comes from their staying power and the longevity of the music and the impact that they had afterwards. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but getting back to what I was talking about, yeah, it's just sort of, anyways, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. It's having multiple categories, subgenres for a movie. And maybe Netflix is partially responsible for this on a subconscious level. Maybe they are. I'm not sure. But no, I completely disagree when we start to put multiple movies in a movie in multiple categories. You know, I'm not going to walk into, like, I mean, I've seen Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom in the family section. I've seen Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom in the adventure section. I've seen it in the action section. I've seen it in, so that's 3. I've seen it in, like, I don't know. There's a couple other, it's just like, stop it. Stop it. Stop that nonsense. Stop that nonsense. Devin Reese sends in $10. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate that. Says, hey, Dave, good to see you streaming today. Thank you. Do you think Halloween 2/81 would have been better had Myers not have tracked down Laurie and instead continued his rampage on Haddonfield instead? That's a good question. I would say that maybe, obviously, yeah, I don't know, possibly. But then you would have removed Laurie from, I don't think they could have done that, because then, see, the thing is this. So Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis, is the star of the movie. And if you were to do what you did, or what you suggested there, which is not a bad suggestion, then that sort of removes Laurie Strode from the equation, right? And now he's just going on and killing random other people. And you sort of disconnect yourself emotionally from the first movie. And the studio would probably not want to do that, right? They'd say, well, no, we have to have Laurie in there because, you know, she's the final girl at the end. Not that they're using these terms, because final girl was not a term that was created until the early 90s, I believe. But for the sake of this video, so you know what I'm talking about, the studio would have said, hey, she's the protagonist. She's the one that people are attached to. We got to have her. So that creates sort of this thing where, well, we have to still have her in it. And we have to, so if he's going, how do we do this? You know, Carpenter needed to justify why Myers was going after Laurie. That's the only reason why he wrote that they were brother and sister. And he hated it. He hated that he was forced into doing it. He hated it. Myers just going on and continuing his rampage around Haddonfield, you could include Loomis, you could include Brackett, but you would remove Laurie altogether, and then it just becomes about other people. Would it have worked? It might have. It might have worked. Because Loomis, like, as long as you had Loomis and Brackett in there, maybe it would have worked. I don't know. I don't know what ideas Carpenter had, if he had any other ideas for it, what Universal was saying at that time. I don't really know. It's a very good question. But I'm a big fan of just continuing. Let me just answer it this way. Would it have worked? Yes. Could you have made it work? Could you have made it work? Yes. I do believe you could have made it work. For sure. For sure. Josh McKenna sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh, and says, Dave, you like fast food or would you prefer eating healthy? If so, what's your favorite fast food? I don't eat a lot of fast food, to be totally honest with you. Like, I haven't had McDonald's in years. When I have fast food, it's usually like Subway, which is not, you know, I mean, it's fast food, but it's not like fast food. You know what I mean? I don't really have it. Like, I just don't. Yeah, I don't eat fast food a lot. I do prefer to eat healthier. So yeah, but if I was choosing, I would say, you know, I mean, fast food's fast food, even McDonald's, you know, a burger's a burger. Some burgers are better than others. Yes, I get that. But at the end of the day, you know, maybe it's just because if you haven't had it in a while, you know, you're not picky, but, Wendy's is good. McDonald's is always, you know, safe. Pizza Hut, you know, I like a good pizza. So I would say Pizza Hut is fun. I haven't had KFC in a while. Kentucky Fried Chicken is good. And I haven't had it in years. And it's so bad for you. I mean, it's so bad for you that they now just call it KFC, even though it stands for Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know if you guys, who is old enough to remember when it was, you know, actually marketed as Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's still Kentucky Fried Chicken, but they don't say that anymore. And they don't, or maybe they do now, I'm not sure, but there was a period of time where they removed Kentucky Fried Chicken from the marketing, and it was just KFC, 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 and that's what you know it as. But the F in that KFC stands for fried. So, but years ago, when I was a kid, growing up through the 80s, oh yeah, they wouldn't shy away. My dad actually met Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders was in Toronto, and my dad, I don't know, he was coming out of somewhere. My dad was coming out, and Colonel Sanders was going. It was like kind of a passing by kind of thing, which was really cool. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I remember when they would market Kentucky Fried Chicken, like they would say, Kentucky Fried Chicken. It would say Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the voiceover would be like, Kentucky Fried Chicken, tastes good, whatever, right? But not anymore. Not anymore. It's just KFC now. KFC. And you guys, to be fair, you guys in the States have way more fast food chains than we do here in Canada. I mean, we have a lot too. We have McDonald's, we have Burger King, we have Wendy's, we have Pizza Hut, we have, your staples, right? Your Wendy's, your Burger Kings, your McDonald's, your Pizza Huts. Of course, we have those up here too. And we have independent chains, burger chains, but we don't have like In-N-Out Burger or Jack in the Box or White Castle, or at least not here in Ontario. Maybe we do in other parts of the country. I'm not sure. But you guys are the fast food capital of the world. I mean, you guys have so many different fast food chains, and they can be national, like McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's, or they can be like regional, like your White Castles or your In-N-Outs or whatever it is. And there's so many. And I got to be honest with you, I tried In-N-Out. I did when I was in Los Angeles. I tried In-N-Out, and I just don't get the hype. I don't understand it. To me, it just tasted like a burger and fries, and it wasn't the worst thing I've ever had. But I was like, I don't understand. Like I was expecting like, whoa, like no, it was not orgasmic. It was just a burger and fries. Maybe I need to try it again. Maybe it was just I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and try it again. I'm not sure, but I didn't think In-N-Out was anything special. And I know that's blasphemous for those that, will die on the hill that In-N-Out is the best thing since sliced bread. But I just thought I would rather go to Wendy's, to be honest with you. But that's just me. Davey Deathray, what's going on? Davey Deathray says, I love Whataburger. Never heard of it. I love Whataburger. The green chili burger from there is Chef's Kiss. Whataburger. Maybe it's an Arizona thing or a West Coast thing. I'm not sure. Do we have it up here? I don't know. I got to find out what we have up here. I'm not really sure. Melissa says KFC coleslaw and potatoes gravy. Ooh, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, KFC is KFC coleslaw is good. You are correct. And when I was a kid, and my dad used to get KFC, which wasn't a lot, but he'd get it. The skin, like I just eat the skin, and my mom was like, Dave, like, you have to eat the chicken too, but the skin is so good. Oh yeah, it's fucking great. Brandon Collins says, your dad knew the truth about Elvis and where he lived. Just saying. Oh, don't get me started on that, Brandon. Oh my God. Yeah, I gotta tell that story. I gotta upload the Jerry Springer episode. I gotta tell the story. So it's in its own video, not a live stream, but a video where I sort of talk about it. So it's up there. Yeah, what a journey that was, man. That was so wild. That was, there's probably some people in the chat right now. They're like, what? Elvis, your dad? What? Jerry Springer? What? If you follow me for any length of time, you know, but, yeah, it was, like I said, I mean, it was growing up as a kid in a media family had its pros. Obviously, some of those pros were, your dad could get tickets to certain things that were deemed already sold out. You could sit in amazing seats watching a hockey game, or get to go up to the press box and sit with your dad. It had its pros. For sure. But it had its cons too. Obviously it's not easy being the son of a I'm not going to say my dad was controversial. I think that's too harsh. But my dad was outspoken, we'll say. Outspoken, right? You know what I mean? And so, and he was on the radio and on TV and obviously in the paper. And so, yeah, it was being a teenager or a kid was, not always easy, but But certainly, I don't regret it. Like I said, I learned a lot from my dad, and it's one of the reasons why I'm such a stickler when when it comes to like sources and information and all that kind of stuff, right? Things I've talked about before. And because, anyway, I just learned a lot from him about that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, and you know what? People have often asked me, if your dad were alive today, would you have him on your channel? And it's an emphatic yes, 100%. He would love this. My dad would love this. Now, my dad died in 2011. So he was obviously around. He saw, YouTube and Twitter and all that. And Facebook. He saw the very beginnings of that. And he used to love YouTube. He just thought it was so cool that you could go on to a place where you could type in like, man throws up in public, and just type in the weirdest, dumbest shit. He loved that. Like, this is amazing. I could just type this in. He thought it was so fun. But now in 2024 and over the last few years, oh my goodness, he would totally have come on here. 100%. You guys would have loved my dad. The stories he would have told, oh my God. It just would have been so cool to have him on. He would have loved it. He would have loved it. He would have thought it was cool because it's a show. It's like for all intents and purposes, because I'm not a movie reviewer, right? In the traditional sense. And I do a lot of live streams. Basically, and I've said this before, but it's true. People kind of, like the way I run my shows and the way I operate and all that kind of stuff. And because of my experience, like I run it, it's almost like it's it's an afternoon radio show or something, right? It's talk radio, you call in and, or you send in a super chat, whatever. And that's kind of how it's structured. So my dad would have really got a kick out of that. Who knows? Maybe my dad would have had his own channel. Probably not. But you never know. You never know, because I don't know when my dad would have retired. I have a feeling he'd be still writing today, even at the age of almost 82. He'd still be writing today, But yeah, my dad would have loved it. My dad would have loved every minute of it. He would have thought it was cool, would have come on and been a guest, and who knows, maybe he would have been a regular guest. That would have been really cool. But anyway, yeah, Elvis is alive. Yes, he was, Brandon. He was. God damn it. Sorry, Dad. He probably would have went, Dave, take that to the grave. Well, I didn't spill the beans. It was the guy who did the voice of Elvis. He's amazing. And I don't just mean like a character, like, oh, hey, man, what's going on? I don't mean that. I mean like he sounded like Elvis Presley. He was incredible. Best impersonation I've ever heard of Elvis. Like, period. Better than Austin Butler, better than 100%. Not that Austin Butler wasn't great. He was great. But this was just like, it sounded like Elvis Presley. In 2012 or 13, he, I don't know if he was interviewed or if he just wrote something for the paper. He, confessed it all and whatever. And I guess he felt comfortable doing that because my father had passed away or whatever. But I can see my dad rolling in his grave a bit going, no, don't do it. Keep it going. But it's all right. It's all right. And not that anybody, like my dad was always satirical about it, right? It's not like my dad was like, I mean, he played it like Shakespeare, 100%, but, there was always a bit of whimsy to it, Anyways, fast forwards, 289 sends in $4.99. Thanks, buddy. Says, what's up, Dave? Really enjoyed your recent pet peeves video. Thank you. Been waiting a long time for one, for another one. Always so true and hilarious. Thanks, man. Yeah. Well, I just, I just wanted to get on and do something fun. And I thought the pet peeves, I think there might be a few in there that maybe are repeats from that pet peeves video I did years ago. But I thought, what the hell not, right? Or why the hell not? Yeah, some of those are so, again, not to rehash that video. You can go back and watch it, but oh my God. Some of them really dumbfound me. I'm dumbfounded. Like some of them you can kind of make arguments for, but some, like the talking in the movie theater, I just don't get it. It literally, it blows my mind. I'm shocked. I don't understand. Like, it's like talking out loud at a funeral or something, or like, do you not know, why are you doing that? Like, you can't be this dumb. You can't, do you not hear how loud your voice is? Because everybody else is so quiet, do you not hear how loud your voice is? Like you have to hear, you have to be aware that your voice is loud. Like, do you not? Whenever I'm watching a movie with somebody in a theater, I will always, and I feel the need to comment, I will always lean right over to their ear and whisper it to them. Like literally get right close to their ear and go, because to them, it's going to sound really loud and they're going to hear it, no problem. But the rest of the theater doesn't even know. It just looks like I'm leaning over. I never have ever been like, oh, dude, whoa. Is this an age thing? I don't know, man. I don't know. But like, shut up. This isn't your living room, man. I didn't pay to hear you. And I got to stop there. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Simon Mills sends in a member chat, has been a member for 6 months. Thank you, Simon. Says, hey, Dave, what are your favorite sci-fi movies? Mine are The Time Machine from 1960, Star Trek 2 and 3, Empire Strikes Back, Back to the Future 2001, and so on. Ooh, that's great. You know, there's an argument to be made that Star Wars isn't science fiction, science fantasy, but I know what you mean. I would say that 2001: A Space Odyssey, absolutely. Probably one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. This is science fiction right now, but the crazy thing with AI, and who knows that this could be science fact in, I don't know, 50 years, who knows, but Ex Machina, I really like Ex Machina. I think that's a really good movie. And I really liked Annihilation as well with Natalie Portman. I thought that was a really good movie. So I would say those are three that I really like. I would say that, science fiction, Moon with oh God, what's his face? How am I blanking on his name? Fuck. I hate getting older. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Moon. Really like Sam Rockwell. Really liked Moon a lot. I thought that was a really good movie. What else? Science fiction, sci-fi. I usually like sci-fi. The Empire Strikes Back, I got to throw in there, of course, even though it's science fantasy, really. But I will throw that in there for the sake, for all intents and purposes, right? Empire, absolutely. It's still my favorite of the Star Wars films. But I tend to like, and I don't know if this is because as I get older and, your mortality gets closer, not that I'm old, I'm just saying, as you get older, you get, you think about things differently in your 40s than you did when you were in your 20s or your your teens. And although I've always been sort of kind of a philosophical kind of guy, but I do like science fiction films that are more philosophical, that ask the larger questions about humanity and, aliens, or where are we? Like Arrival, really like Arrival. Love that movie. That's a really good movie. Denis Villeneuve's Arrival, like that. But again, there's a philosophical component to it, right? You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So yeah, those are some of my favorite sci-fi films. There's probably more for sure, but those are definitely ones I can think of off the top of my head. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Or no, the member chat, I should say. Thank you. Joey20AF2 sends in $9.99. Thank you, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, are you excited about the new Nosferatu? Where do you stand on the vampire genre in general? Do you think it could make a significant comeback? Great question. So I'm excited to see it. Full disclosure, I have not seen the original, like the old black and white one. I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of the character, obviously, and, and sort of the origins. And I'm looking forward to seeing this. I want to see the original first, just so I'm, cultured that way. And then I will take a leap into seeing this one. And the vampire genre in general, I'm not a huge fan. I don't get giddy over vampires. I'm not, I'm just not, I don't have anything against, how there's some movies, right? And I'm sure you guys can make, a list of this stuff. There's some movies where it's like, I don't not like the movie, but I'm indifferent. That's what it is, right? I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm indifferent to it. And that's kind of how I feel about the vampire genre. Like, I think my favorite vampire movie as a kid growing up was The Monster Squad. And that's not even a vampire movie. It's like, it's got all the old gang in there. So, I'm not overly a vampire guy. So I could take it or leave it. But the Nosferatu, I'm curious. I'm curious on seeing it because of who's all involved, for sure. And do I think it can make a comeback? Did it go anywhere? Did the vampire genre, like, do you mean like Twilight, like level hysteria? I don't think the vampire subgenre has the vampire subgenre ever really been huge? Like, I mean, huge, like maybe back in like the 30s and 40s, but I mean, has it ever really been huge? Huge. Okay, huge. I'm just saying. China. Has it ever been huge? I don't know. Has it really gone anywhere? I'm not really sure. Maybe it has, but because I'm not as into it, you probably could speak to that maybe better than I could. Hey, you know what? You make a really great movie, I'm in. Kevin Kruger, $4.99, thanks, buddy, says, what are your thoughts on AI acting and writing movies in the future? An emphatic no. 100% no. But it doesn't matter what I think. It's going to go that way anyway. It's so funny. Like as soon as Chat GPT and all this AI and deepfake technology and all that kind of stuff, I know they're different technologies, but I'm just saying, like, they're all cousins of each other, right? As soon as the deepfake shit rolled out and all this kind of stuff, I remember, and I might have said this here on this channel, I can't remember, but I remember saying something to the effect of that I remember saying that this is scary. It's scary fucking shit. And, you know, I don't want to say made fun of, but, you know, and you heard people talking about, oh, you know, it's all doom and gloom. Listen, of course it's not all doom and gloom. Of course not, right? Of course not. But some of the deep fake technology out there is so phenomenal that you cannot tell me. I'm sorry. There is no amount of, oh, you're just being, you know, a worrywart, or you're being you're being, you know, you're thinking too apocalyptic and dystopian. You're thinking too, you know, all this kind of stuff. And listen, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying that it's going to happen next year or even 10 years from now. But as soon as deep fake technology was a thing, right? And how long has that been? Maybe 7 years, 8 years, something like that. As soon as deep fake technology was a real thing, and people could get their hands on it and just upload deep fake shit, and some is better, some are better than others, but I'm talking about like phenomenal stuff where you're like, wow. You cannot tell me that the governments of the world, our own governments as well, okay, you know, as much as we'd like to think that we are the bearers of good, there's a lot of evil that goes on in our own governments as well. And you cannot tell me that this technology will not be used, and maybe isn't already being used, to pin crimes on people, to put them in places where they never were. I mean, like, think about this, for example. Think about this. This is how scary it is. I'm not saying it has been used like this. I'm just saying, think about this. The technology exists today, and it's probably exist for quite some time, because usually when these things make it to the mainstream, they've been making the circles in the, you know, in the other underground government circles for, you know, for years. But technology exists today, readily available to the average person, I might add, exists today where if, for whatever reason, if the CIA wanted to put me at the scene of a crime, they could. And I don't just mean with DNA. I mean, first they have to get my DNA, of course, but I just mean they could have me on video, clear as day, at the scene of a crime. And my voice. This stuff obviously is being used for that kind of stuff. It's being used for cyber war. It's being used for warfare 100%. And it will continue just evolving. So it's crazy to me. It's scary. There's that side of it, right? The AI, that's very scary. Of course, there's good things that come out of that. Of course, there's good. I mean, technology in and of itself is not good or bad. It's really how you use it. It's like the Force, right? I mean, the Force in and of itself is not good or bad. It's there. And it's there for the taking, and how you use it and utilize it and present it and what you do with it. You know, you can use it for good. You can use it for nefarious purposes, but the technology is so powerful that, I mean, you know, we'd be incredibly naive to think that, you know, that people are not going to be pinned for things they never did. And I don't mean on a general scale. I don't mean that, like on the local level, a little Bob. No, I'm talking about like warfare, like cyber warfare, like geopolitical. I'm talking about that shit. I'm not saying that like your local sheriff is going to pin you because, you took a piece of gum. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like real scary shit, right? So the average person like you or I probably doesn't have to worry about that, to be fair, because unless we're planning on getting involved in a geopolitical or, becoming a spy or, a part of the CIA or the KGB. Well, the KGB is not around anymore, but you know what I mean, right? Then we probably don't have to worry about it. But it's just fucking scary that shit actually exists. And we see it in the enter. Oh, it's all fun. Oh, they're making Robert De Niro look younger. Oh, look at that TikToker, that Tom Cruise TikToker. Oh, this is so fun. Sure, great. But have you ever stopped to think, holy fuck? Because you know that shit is you. Why wouldn't you? It's power, man. And everybody. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of. So that I digress. My apologies. But the whole idea of no, I mean, as an actor myself, obviously I don't like it. I like getting my hands dirty. I like performing. Although I'm not a huge fan of writing, I wouldn't want to generate a script through AI because it's not really mine. I didn't really do it. Like, unless I was a hired hand, like I wouldn't do it myself. I mean, if somebody generated it and said, Dave, this is a generated AI script, it's being marketed as a generated AI script. So they're not trying to deceive people in that this was actually written by, it was written by David Koepp, who wrote Jurassic Park, the screenplay for Jurassic Park. And it wasn't at all. Koepp just got onto to Chat GPT and said, write me a 90-page, horror screenplay or whatever. And it did. And I mean, as long as everybody is upfront about it, and there's no, which then, if somebody was like, hey, we want you to direct this AI script, maybe I'd think about it depending on what, how much you're going to pay me. But me, myself, because of my principles, I would never want to use that for myself. Because it's not mine. It's not real. It's really what it is a bunch of a lot of other ideas that Chat GPT is drawing from and then putting it all together as if it's original on their own. And so it is for all intents and purposes, but not a big fan. I mean, listen, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. It's here to stay. It's going to happen. It's just going to continue to evolve. And it's already hitting the voiceover industry. I mean, when you watch a video and it's an AI voice, some are better than others. And in the voiceover industry, where it's really prominent in the voiceover industry right now is sort of the education and training, the explainer videos, your YouTube videos where it's just a voice, you just need a voice to explain something, right? And like I said, some voices sound amazing. And then there's usually that word or that inflection or cadence that kind of tips you off that it's an AI voice, but it's really good. Like it's like, wow, I would think that, wow, that's really good. And then there's the old school AI voices that sound very AI, and you can usually tell, right? But in the world of voiceover right now, where I'm noticing it is the explainer videos, the education training videos, the internal stuff, corporate presentation, all that kind of stuff. You hear a lot of AI because it's cheaper for these companies to just write the script and get the AI voice to do it. And if the AI voice is teaching you how to put a tire on your car, well, it's not a big fucking deal. Like they don't need, you know what I mean? Where voiceover is not yet impacted yet is commercial, promo, commercial, trailer, long form narration, like TV narration, like, I don't know, you're watching, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and there's a whatever the case is, right? Like lifestyle network TV, things like that. And animation. Animation will probably be, if AI does move into the voiceover world further and continues to insidiously make its way into commercial, which is going to piss the hell out of me and a lot of people. I imagine animation will probably be the last to be affected by AI, because animation cartoons, it's not about the voice, it's about the character. And until AI can build a three-dimensional character within that voice, and all the nuances and idiosyncrasies and the inflections and all that stuff that the actor brings to the character, we call it color, right? So you'll sometimes see a line, and maybe the line is, I can't believe this. How did this happen? That's the line. I can't believe this. How did this happen? But as an actor, you might go, I can't believe this. I mean, how did this happen? Right? Well, in the script, it doesn't say to hesitate, to stutter, to stammer. But as an actor, you're bringing that to it, right? You see that, you recognize that, you're interpreting the moment, the energy of the moment, what's being said before, what's coming after, what's the intensity of the scene. The actor is bringing the color to that, right? And so AI, unless you can build AI that knows how to automatically, and again, that might happen, that might come. But right now in animation, we animation voice actors, and I do a bunch of animation now, we're pretty safe. We're pretty safe. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to be like that. It doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. Again, because animation cartoons is about building characters. It's not about having a funny voice. It's about building, having, depending on what the character is and what you have to do, and what the vision is, what the director is, sure. But it's about building three-dimensional characters and all the nuances and all that kind of stuff. So, and AI can't do that yet. AI voices right now are great for, if you want to save some money, I guess, on an explainer video, sure. But commercial, promo, animation, things like that, not yet. But again, as an actor, I'm against it, of course, because that's my livelihood. That's how I make my living. And I want you to pay me to be in your show. I want you to pay me to be in your show. I don't want you to go off and use some AI to save money. And you know what's going to happen? Like eventually somewhere down the road, because these things are, technology just continues to expand exponentially. So it's just going to, I don't know, man, it's scary. It's scary. And the same thing with on-camera actors, right? The on-camera actor, there's nuances, there's idiosyncrasies, there's things that a character can bring to a performance that they're not there yet. They're not there yet, thank goodness. But it's coming. It's coming, and it's scary. And of course, I am against it. All right, let me go back here. Great question, by the way. I just want to make sure I get all the super chats. I don't want to miss any. Hang on a sec here. Okay. Chuck M0503 sends in $10. Thanks, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, any idea why in the opening credits of some films, one actor will be listed with the character they're playing, while all the other actors, it's just their name? That's a good question. In the opening credits, I see what you're saying. So this is probably like I see. So you'll see something like, Bob Johnson, Stephen Martin. I'm just making up names. Bob Johnson, Stephen Martin, Dave McCrae. Hey, that's me. Will Glooby and Phil Sinkbowl. I'm a weird name. Phil Smith as Bob, right? You'll see that. I think, if it's the last name that you see, right? Because you'll often see that in television, in movies. Yeah, I think you sometimes see it. You'll see the stars and so. They're usually like the last name, maybe you'll sometimes see. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't know of the specific reason other than just a stylistic choice, a creative choice. Used to see that in sitcoms a lot, from the 80s. So-and-so, and Bob Johnson as Sammy. And usually the Bob Johnson is a reoccurring character, a supporting member, not a star. They're maybe not in every episode. Again, I'm thinking back to the 80s and kind of how those opening credits were sometimes structured. In movies, I don't know. I don't know what the specific reason would be, other than maybe just a stylistic choice of the credits. There might be a specific reason. There might be a specific reason, but I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question. Michelle Thorne sends in $9.99. Michael Thorne, I don't have my glasses. Michael Thorne sends in $9.99. Says, in the theater recently, a stranger turned to me and loudly asked me if I had seen the film already, who's in the film, and if it was good. During the movie, loudly, unreal, unbelievable, Michael. Did you turn to him? And you say here, a complete stranger. Did you turn to him and were like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you, dude, I'm watching the movie. Like, what are you doing? I would have said that. Like, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here, man. Fast forwards 289, sends in $4.99, says, yeah, I think you and your dad would have made a great show together. I think so too. It would have been a lot of fun. He was funny as hell in those McMinute episodes. Yeah, those McMinute episodes. That was fun. That was something my dad wasn't crazy on doing. It was something that the newspaper wanted him to do. And he was like, I don't know. Because he had to come up with weird shit to talk about all the time. Some are funnier than others. Some are better than others. But my dad was just being silly. But yeah, they're still online, I think. There's a few of them. I have some too saved somewhere. But yeah, there's all sorts of like, I don't know, funny stuff that my dad and I could have talked about. It would have been a lot of fun. Mandy D sends in $4.99, but retracted the message. All right, well, thanks for the $4.99, Mandy. Don't feel like you can't ask. Feel free. Rob Kitzmiller has been a member for 6 months, Rob. Love the Halloween Kills emoji, badge you have there. Sends in a member chat and says, Dave, you got to check out High Life with Robert Pattinson. Great choice. Great science fiction movie if you haven't seen it. High Life. I have not seen High Life with Robert Pattinson. Thank you, Rob Kitzmiller. I will make a mental note of that. Appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, here we go. Mandy D sends in $4.99 and says, hi, Dave. Whataburger is a Texas thing. Okay. Whataburger, I think you mean, is a Texas thing. Would have loved to hear your dad on the show. Well, thank you, Mandy. Whataburger is a Texas thing, right? In Texas. All right. Yeah, well, that's a cool thing. And I do know that here in Canada, there are certain provinces that do have like their own stuff. I do know that. But we are not nearly as well. I mean, again, we are the second largest country in the world. That is true by land mass. That is true. Russia's the first, then Canada, then China, I think. The US is somewhere in there, fourth, fifth, something like that. But we only have 40 million people. So we don't have a lot of people. So we don't have nearly the, fast food chains that you guys have. Because whenever I go to the States, I'm always like, oh my God, I've never even heard of this place before. It's like, hey, come to Billy Bob's Pickle Burger. And I'm just like, well, we have things like that. We do. But it doesn't seem as, there's just a lot more of it. When you go to the States, just a lot more of it. All right, one sec. Got that. Edward Nito sends in a member chat. Thank you, Edward. Says, as an artist, I'm not a fan of artwork pooped out by 3 words typed into an AI program. There you go, Edward, my man, Edward Nito. There you go, Edward. I totally agree. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. The technology is cool. Of course it's cool, right? You can type into Chat GPT, you type in and you say, type me. It's cool, of course. And of course, the video technology and the AI and the photographs. And of course it's cool, 100%. But to use it as a means to create art and then take credit, like, I'm okay with a world that AI art exists, AI stories exist. Fine. But you have to make that distinction. This is AI. This is not real. This is not a real human being. This is not a real voice actor. This is not but then, this right here is a great, then when do the lines of reality and fiction, where does it stop? When does this is not real become real? And that's the dystopian George Orwell 1984 shit Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's not what it was all about, but I'm just saying, like, that's the 1984 shit that is really scary, because when does it stop? Right? Oh, we can make clear distinctions right now. Sure. Because the technology, as great as it is, you can still tell, you know what I mean? But there's going to come a time where you can't. There's going to come a time, and it's already well on its way. There's going to come a time where you're going to be able to watch a movie. I'll just pick a movie, Halloween Kills. So think of Halloween Kills, right? I don't care if you didn't like it. Let's just think of the movie. So you think of Halloween Kills, think of the production value, think of just the movie, just the way it was edited, the smoothness, the production value, the acting, the people. There's going to come a time where AI technology is so far advanced, and we're not that far off. It's so far advanced that you could watch a movie like Halloween Kills, okay? Again, think of just the movie. And everything in that movie, literally 100%, everything in that movie is fake, is AI generated. The actors, but they look so real. The actors look real. They look smooth, and they're making choices, and it just looks, yeah, fake. No, they're not real. Those aren't real actors. Yeah, but the music and no music, it's fake. It was AI generated. I mean, it's real music, of course, but no, it's fake. No, it's fake. Yeah, but the camera work and the way it's it's fake. See, right now we're not there. Right now we're not quite there yet. We still got a ways to go. But that's what's so scary is imagine that. Like, it's like, then where are the, it's creepy, man. It's creepy. I'm telling you, it's fucking creepy. Lee the Machine Bowers, my man Lee the Machine Bowers sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Lee, and says, Dave, my man, happy Sunday. I went to look at new cars yesterday. I seen the new electric Dodge Charger. I was like, heck no. Sadly, Dodge has discontinued the gas Chargers and Challengers. I know. I have a Challenger and a 2019, and yeah, they stopped making them. They stopped making them last year. Well, yeah, 2023, or was it 2023, or maybe it was 2024. I think the 2024 model of the Challenger, I think, is the last year. And that might be the same for the Charger as well. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. But again, right, there's nothing we can do to stop it. You know, Jesus. There's just nothing we can do. Eventually it will become just normal. You know, you're like, we're sort of just forced into it. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not a fan, but there's not much we can do. Well, hopefully your car shopping went well. And if you haven't got one already, you were able to at least find one that you might be interested in. PJ! Hey, PJ, what's going on? Long time no see, PJ. Great to see you here. Sends in $13.99. Thank you, PJ. I really appreciate that, by the way. Says, hey, Dave, if you like Ex Machina and Annihilation, Alex Garland explored AI in Devs, D-E-V-S, Devs, a miniseries starring Nick Offerman, I think is how you say that. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Creepy. Well, I haven't. I've never heard of this. So I'm definitely going to check it out because I do like Ex Machina and I do like Annihilation. I really enjoyed those movies a lot, actually. And it's so, the ending of Ex Machina, because it's like, and men especially, you know, because, and if I can get all, you know, a little bit scientific here, you know, biologically, obviously, men and women are different. And, you know, men are very visual, right? Very sort of like, you know, and not that obviously both men and women are attracted to attractive people, of course, but, you know, there's an evolutionary biology thing about how, you know, women obviously are more about, you know, the emotional side of things and that kind of stuff. And men are, you know, a bit different. But to manipulate, it's so easy to manipulate a man with a beautiful woman, right? It's a bit harder to manipulate a woman with a beautiful man. Not that it can't be done, but because women are a little smarter, I think, with their emotions. So it's just the end of X, because she's beautiful. I forget the actor's name now. Was it Vikander? Is that who it was? Ex Machina. Yeah, Alicia Vikander. Obviously, pretty beautiful. Let's be honest, she's kind of hot. Oscar Isaac was amazing. And just to see at the end of that movie, like he actually thought she was into him. You know what I mean? But she was manipulating him. She was just using him to get out. And spoiler alert, I guess, but hey, the movie's 10 years old now. And I just remember when I watched that movie for the first time, and I watched it again not too long ago, maybe like 6 months ago, a year ago, and watching it, and the way he's like, no, and she's just like, it's like, dude, it's because she was a hot robot. It's like, come on, think, man, think. Yeah, men are very, and again, I'm speaking generally, obviously, right? I'm speaking generally, but generally because of our makeups and because of, a lot of things that are sort of built into our DNA inherently, men, generally speaking, can be very easily manipulated through, a beautiful woman. And so, yeah, that at the very end, I'm just like, oh, dude, that must hurt. That must hurt. Oh man, loved it. And Annihilation, of course, was great too. And that ending was really cool. And Natalie Portman, of course, is easy on the eyes. So, but yeah, I will check that out. Thank you, PJ. I really appreciate that. Lee the Machine Bowers, another $9.99, says, my biggest pet peeve, I went to see Scream 6 opening night. A mother brings her kids, and the kids were loud during the movie. I'm like, why now? The movie is running. Yeah, it's tough, because they're kids, but you don't bring kids to us. Don't bring kids to see. Like, come on. Again, this is like, you just have to have objective awareness, and like, I don't have any kids, but if I had like a baby, it's like, oh, well, I can't get a babysitter and I want to, well, then you don't go see the movie, especially nowadays. And, where like years ago it was harder because obviously the movie's in the theater, and if it's not in the theater, but now the movie's going to be on streaming, PVOD, like just don't bring your fucking kid. Like I would just say, and I think it's because it's not surprising that we're movie people. So we're, and not that you have to be a movie person to be annoyed, but I think it annoys us extra. I think our tolerance level for this kind of stuff is very low because we're movie people and we take this fucking shit seriously, right? The tolerance level for a kid chatting in the background or a baby going, maybe a little higher for those who aren't movie people, but are just going to the movies for a night out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, as a movie person, if I had a baby and we couldn't get a sitter, I'd be like, well, we're just not going to the movies. Like, it's just that simple. We're just not going to the movies because I am not putting somebody through that, because I know if I, you know what I mean? So yeah, it will always continue to blow my mind how people will talk. I don't care that you talk during the movie. I've talked during the movie. Like I said, I'll lean over to whoever I'm with. I will lean over, get right close to their face and literally not say, yeah, I was not talk, not use my, my voice. I will literally say, dude, that was fucking wild. Did you see how he fell off that? Holy shit. And to him or her, it sounds really loud, right? To you in like 3 rows back, you can't hear anything I'm saying. You can't, all you see is just me going, that's it, right? So why don't people do that? I don't get it. It's just insane to me. Josh Lott sends in $10. Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate that. Says, happy Saturday, Dave. Happy Saturday to you as well. It's been a while. It has been, but you're busy. You're busy. I don't remember if I ever asked if you're familiar with the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series. And if you saw the movie, let us know. I am familiar with it in the sense that I know what it is, but I am not familiar with it in the sense that I have seen any of it. So I haven't seen any of it, and I haven't seen the movie either. Great question, though. And then JD is LA sends in $10. Thank you. It says, Dave, been a sub for about 6 years. Amazing. When Halloween 18 was all the rage. If you could cast your favorite actor ever in any film with a past or present director of your choosing, who would it be? You rock. Well, my favorite actor of all time is Harrison Ford. And the only Spielberg, and my favorite director of all time is Steven Spielberg. And the only Spielberg movies that Ford has ever done are the 4 Indiana Jones movies that he did with Spielberg. So I would say that I would love to see Spielberg and Harrison Ford team up for another movie. I don't know what in particular. Of course, now it's kind of like, you know, he's 82 and I don't know. But certainly back in like, you know, Harrison Ford's heyday, the 80s and the 90s, I would have loved to have seen another movie with Spielberg. But Ford, he worked with a lot of great directors. I mean, Peter Weir and, you know, Robert Zemeckis and, well, you know, let's put his personal life aside for a moment, but Roman Polanski, he's a great director. I mean, we can't, you know, he is a great director. He did work with Roman Polanski on Frantic, which is a good movie, a good Harrison Ford movie. He's worked, he's worked with great directors, Mike Nichols, obviously. But I would have liked to have seen, Harrison Ford and Spielberg on something that wasn't Indiana Jones. I don't know why Spielberg didn't work with Ford on something other than Indiana Jones. But he worked with Tom Hanks a lot. Spielberg liked working with Hanks. And Hanks is a great actor. I mean, he's probably more versatile than Ford, so that's probably why. But I would say Spielberg and Ford. Something that wasn't Indiana Jones. I think that would be cool. But that's kind of the safe choice, right? So I don't know. What's another favorite actor I quite like? Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. He's one of my favorite actors. I'd say Kurt Russell and Kubrick. There you go. Kurt Russell and Stanley Kubrick. Or is it Kubrick? I hear people say Kubrick, but I say Kubrick. I don't know what the right way is. But anyway, there you go. Thank you for the super chat, JD is LA. I appreciate that. Okay, let me just go over to the other screen, make sure I haven't missed anything before I answer some member ones. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, oh no, it's not. Oh no, there we go. JD is LA, Josh Lott, Lee the Machine, Peach, Lee the Machine, blah, blah. Yes, okay, I've got everybody. Have you heard? Where are you guys? There you are. Too many things open. All right. Tyler Adams says, the scary stories to tell in the dark illustrations, were haunting. Love that stuff as a kid. The movie was tight. Very cool. I'll have to check it out. Guitarist Dog 87 says, Dave, don't mind previous comment sent too early. Oh, okay. Rock on. Aaron Click says, some say the movie Madam Web is a product of AI story writing. Well, I think people are saying that because they don't like the movie. That's why they're saying that. You know what? Listen, I haven't seen Madam Web, obviously. I'm not a superhero guy, but I am obviously very aware of the vitriol and the backlash the movie is getting and that it's a dog shit show. I am very curious that because I'm not emotionally attached to the universe, and I'm not emotionally attached to the franchise. Okay, so I heard a lot of people saying that before the movie was released, that the Madam Web trailer, oh my God, fucking trailer sucks. Oh, the acting and the lines and stuff, and I'm like, holy fuck, I gotta check this out. I watched the Madam Web trailer, and I thought it was fine. I was like, this just looks like a superhero movie trailer. I didn't, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm not emotionally invested in the story. I've seen maybe 4 Marvel movies out of the 22 that released, and 2 of them were let me get this. I've seen Spider-Man Homecoming. I've seen the 2 Deadpool films, which technically weren't part of the MCU at the time. I've seen the first Iron Man and the second Iron Man. I've seen the first Avengers. And that's it. I haven't seen any other films. Now, it's not because I think they're garbage. It's that thing that we all have with certain things. I'm indifferent to it, right? Some of you might be really into those movies, but you couldn't care about Star Trek or something. And you're like, well, I don't hate Star Trek. I don't love Star Trek. I'm indifferent to it. That's why I don't care. And that's me with, generally speaking, that's me with, superhero films as a whole. So I'm not emotionally invested. I don't really know what's going on. To me, it's just and I watched the trailer and I was like, looks fun. I thought this looks kind of fun. But isn't that interesting though, right? And that goes to show you, like, for me, when it comes to the MCU and the Marvel movies and for me, I'm the general movie-going audience, right? I am the general movie-going audience when it comes to the MCU and superhero films, because I'm not a rabid fan. And I say rabid in all the good ways, because I'm a rabid fan of, horror movies, Halloween, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, when it comes to Halloween and horror movies, I'm not the general movie-going audience, right? I'm the hardcore, but when it comes to MCU films or whatever, I am the general movie-going audience. So I watched and I was like, looks kind of fun to me. Isn't that interesting, eh? And so I wonder, I'm curious, I'm not going to go to the theater to see it, obviously, but I'm curious, when it comes to streaming, I'm probably going to watch it just to see if I can be like, thought it was all right. I thought it was kind of fun. But you see, it's mainly because I'm not emotionally invested into it, I'm not understanding or picking up on, why this is, you can't, you can't, it's like a general movie-going audience person watching Halloween Ends or something, right? I thought it was fine. I thought it was all right. You had Michael Myers and this other guy had some kills, and then we come along going, no, it's not supposed to be like that. Don't you understand? That's not what he does. That makes no sense because we're crazy and because we are the rabid, insane fans, which are amazing. And we understand all the nuances and idiosyncrasies and the details and the canonically connected and the characters. And this, you can't do that because of this, and this doesn't make any sense because you can't do that, and that doesn't make any sense. We get that, right? Of course. But when it comes to MCU movies, I'm just like, well, I thought it was all right. Well, it was fun. I sat there for 90 minutes or, 2 hours, and I saw a bunch of cool superhero people doing superhero things, and it was entertaining, and it was kind of fun, and it was kind of fun. So, because I've yet to see anybody say, well, I thought it was all right. But, because really it's, and I'm not saying that they are being disingenuous when people jump online and say how much they hated it. I'm just saying that there is an echo chamber that you see, right? And I'm not saying that they're being, maybe echo chamber is not the right word, because echo chamber implies that people haven't done their due diligence and they're just recycling shit, without action. So let me remove that. But there is a lot of people, I'll say, that are saying similar things about it. But I wonder, are these people that are emotionally invested? And then, I just find that stuff interesting from a sociological perspective, because, again, it should help. If I watch Madam Web and I come on here and I say, I thought it was all right. I had fun. I thought it was all right. Oh, I did see Shazam, the first Shazam. I saw that as well. Is that part of the MC? No, that's not part of the, no, that's DC. That's DC. That's DC. But I did see that movie and I quite liked it. But if I come on here and say, I thought Madam Web was all right, it was entertaining, that should be, for all of you that are like, keep that in the back of your head for why, just kind of keep that in the back. Like, oh yeah, that's right. It's just I guess I'm trying to say is that I find it interesting how, it's just the perfect example of the general movie-going audience not being so, I thought it was, you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. I just find that stuff interesting. Really, really interesting and fascinating. How they just kind of, they're just, I don't know. Excuse me. I'm not sure. You know what I'm trying to say. Oh, geez. A lot more stuff came in here. Chuck M0503 sends in a member chat. Thank you. On the credits thing, I saw it in Indiana Jones and TLC. Connery was listed as, and Sean Connery as Henry Jones. I know I've seen it in other films, always kind of perplexed me. Okay, well, in that case, it could be something that Sean Connery is a legendary actor. And in 1989, when the movie came out, to be able to use it as a status thing, sometimes is why it's done, right? And Sean Connery as right? I mean, if now not all the time, again, right? It's not a hard and fast rule. But in that case, in the case of Sean Connery, I think it was probably done as just sort of I can't talk today. I think it was done as a way to have like a nice button on that, and Sean Connery as his dad, or, as Henry Jones, it would have said. So I think that's probably why it would have been done. I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule. It could come from the studio now, and even then, maybe it could come from, no, we got to do this because it's a marketing thing, even though you're already watching the movie when it happens, but, it's psychological. But I imagine that there's a few reasons probably why it's done. And that's probably one of the reasons. David Lee Barron sends in $4.99. Thank you, David, and says, Dear Dr. Pichet, why do you think Baz Luhrmann was nominated for Best Director at the Oscars? Do you think he's a talented director? Well, he was nominated for Elvis, right? Which was last year, not this year. Do I think he's a talented director? Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a few movies. I like The Great Gatsby of his. Elvis, I really enjoyed. He did the Romeo and Juliet from 1996, right? So, I mean, he's got a style. There's a specific style when it comes to Baz Luhrmann. Moulin Rouge, I think he did, right? I think he did that one. Did he do that one? Anyways, I quite like that film as well. Did he do Moulin Rouge? Maybe he didn't. Anyway, yeah, sure. Yes, I do think he's talented, but he's a stylistic director, right? He has a very specific style and a very specific way that he goes about creating his films. And I would say that I don't like all of his movies because he's very stylistic. But I would say that he's very stylized, right? But I would say that he's not for everybody. He's not a mainstream populist filmmaker. You're not going to see him just doing like the next Conjuring movie. He's got a very specific style and a very specific vision. So, but is he talented? Sure. And why do I think he was nominated for that? Well, because Elvis was a really good movie, and it was so I'm not surprised. I thought it was really good. Fast Forwards 289 sends in $4.99, says, have you ever seen the show Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction? Always loved that show, classic 90s. I have, yes, years ago. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yes, I did see it a long time ago, Fact or Fiction. I remember that. Do you guys remember, well, obviously there's Unsolved Mysteries, but what's the one with Leonard Nimoy from the 70s? In Search Of. Do you guys remember In Search Of? Obviously, I was born in 79, so but I watched the reruns that they played through the 80s and even into the 90s. In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. Do you guys remember that? That was fun. Aaron Click says, even the critics I trust say Madam Web is laughably bad. Mike from Wham, Lee from Drum Dums. I might watch it when it's free from my library for a good laugh. I think it's always important. Yeah, I think it's always important to watch movies and judge for yourself, right? I mean, like I said, I have no shame on admitting that I actually genuinely like a movie that most people are against, like Barbie or Avatar. I thought, Barbie was great. And that's not the hip thing to say. But I would say that, yes, I would say that obviously Lee and Mike and the critics are all saying that, and maybe it is. But Lee and Mike are also invested in those movies as well, right? So and I'm not saying it isn't, but I think it's probably relative. And so I have a feeling, and maybe not, but because I know next to nothing about the MCU, I have a feeling that I would watch that movie and think it was a fun time. Just think, well, this wasn't, it's not going to blow my socks off, but I'd probably watch and go, well, that was kind of fun. I understood the story, the characters, some of the lines might have been a little cheesy, but it doesn't affect me on a like a really deep level as it would somebody who is invested, because they pick up on all those things. No, Dave, and they could explain to me, this is why this movie is a really shitty movie when you compare it to the rest of the MCU, right? This is why this movie does not hold up. This is why, this movie is not very good. This is why this movie is not very great, right? And then I could be able to intellectualize that and go, oh yeah, I totally see that. I didn't know that going in because I have no reference point. It's not relative to me. I haven't seen all the movies. I haven't seen Morbius. I haven't seen Venom. I haven't seen Endgame and I'm trying to think of the names of these movies now. Endgame and Winter Soldier and Captain America and Doctor Strange, and I don't have my footing, right? So if you do have your footing, then you get to that point where you go, well, hang on a sec here. This movie is, what are we doing, right? Where somebody like me, I come in just going, to me, it just looks like a fun little popcorn movie, right? You know what I mean? Like some people said that about Shazam. I loved, Shazam, and yet it didn't get the hate that Madam Web is getting. But there was a few people that were like, yeah, it's not very good. Maybe that's a bad example. But I've watched movies in the past where that has happened. That's like Batman v Superman. I watched Batman v Superman and I was like, I thought it was kind of fun. I did, but there were people like, no, Dave, this is why it's shit. And they lay it all out. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if that's all true, then yeah, I guess if that's all true, then yes, this is why I totally get it. But as somebody who has no reference point, who just watches I'm just watching Batman fight Superman for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, this is kind of fun. But from a story perspective, because there's two ways to judge it, right? You can judge it from was the Batman v Superman movie convoluted and a lot of villain? Of course. I mean, I could step out of the viewer zone and into the filmmaker zone, but that's a different dissection, right? That's a different sort of conversation altogether. And sometimes there's a little bit of overlap, sure, I guess. But I'll just say that it wouldn't surprise me if I watched Madam Web and was like, I thought it was all right. And when I say I thought it was all right, that's not me saying I thought it was great peak cinema. That's just me looking at it as a movie fan that doesn't really know anything about why I should hate it. Do you know what I mean? Unless we're talking about structure and really bad acting, But when I watched the trailer, I was like, this just looks like I didn't see bad acting. I just saw tropes. I don't know. So maybe I don't know. Call me crazy. I don't know. I know that's not the hip thing to say. I'm supposed to hate Madam Web, but I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. I'm not sure. But again, I'm not the person you want to get your, superhero reviews from, because see, horror movies, yes, because horror movies are my thing, right? Horror movies, sci-fi, talking about the layers and stuff and all that kind of doing that. And not that there aren't layers and there isn't cinematic language and symbolism in superhero films, of course. But the genre in and of itself is not a genre that I've been emotionally invested in. So I'd have to watch all the MCU movies and all the DC movies and play catch up and really gain a grasp. I'd have to study it. You know what I mean? Like I don't mean literally study it, but I need to culture myself. I'm not cultured on it. I can talk about it in a 101 sense, a vague idea, because I'm a movie guy and I have my pulse on the industry and I know what's out there. Of course, I know what's coming out and who's in what. And, David Cornsweet is your new Superman. And I know all this because you can't be a movie guy and attached to have your ear to the industry and not know about everything. But when it comes to the real stuff, it's horror movies for me, and the superhero films are kind of I'm not really, do you know what I mean? Invested. But, and folks, keep in mind, that's not me saying that Madam Web is a good movie. That's just me saying, I'm curious to watch it as a complete outsider, how I would feel about it. And if I watch the movie and go, holy shit, well now it's really bad. That's the litmus test. That's a litmus test. You ask somebody who's maybe not heavily emotionally invested to watch it, and if they go, oh, it's just, then you've really failed. Let me see here. Michael Thorne sends in $4.99. Ooh, I got to go. Michael Thorne sends in $4.99, says, us comic book fans can tell when it's half-ass cash grab. General audiences won't notice those little things. And that's true. Michael, you're bang on. That's why I find it interesting from a sociological perspective, right? And full disclosure, as I said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. When it comes to the superhero comic book genre, I guess, I, Dave McCrae, am a general movie-going audience fan. Right? I like them. I mean, I've watched some. I thought the Deadpool movies were a lot of fun. And like I said, I've seen some, but Michael Thorne is bang on. I don't have the knowledge and the perspective. You know, I haven't studied it, right? I'm using that in quotes because I don't literally mean you got to sit down and study. I just mean having watched all the movies, being emotionally invested, understanding the lore and the mythology and the nuances and how everything connects and all that. I don't know. I have a basic idea. Again, very 101, because you can't be a movie fan and, you know, we're so inundated with all these movies from these, you know, superhero films. You can't not know what's going on. But Michael Thorne is bang on. I'm not invested in the same ways as I would be to horror movies and Halloween and Friday and Elm Street and, you know, The Conjuring, you know, whatever the case is. Then it's like, then I get angry, right? Because when it comes to horror movies, I have, obviously I'm, you know, using an analogy to make it, but, you know, when it comes to horror movies, I'm like a PhD, you know, I got my PhD, but when it comes to like superhero films, I maybe have like a, you know, 8th grade education or something. Do you know what I mean? But we can't love everything and we can't know everything there is to know about everything, right? We have our tastes, we have our interests. And so, yeah, when it comes to superhero films, I'm always like, you know, I can talk about it, you know, a little bit, but if you want deep dives, oh man, you got to go get the PhDs. I'm way out of my element there. Lee the Machine Bowers, another $9.99. Thank you, Lee. Says Jaws turns 50 this year. You're right. I forgot about Jaws. I was talking about movies at the beginning of the stream today. Jaws is 50. 50 next year, Lee. It came out in 1975, actually. The book Jaws was 74? I think it was 74. Remember, it's 2024. The movie actually is 1975. So it's actually next year. That's probably why it didn't hit me. 1975. Yep. But hey, still, the 49th anniversary. Pretty impressive. The movie's still amazing, especially in 4K. Absolutely, Lee. 100%. 100%. And then fast forwards 29 says, also, I know you've been busy, but was wondering if you had a chance to see Dark Knight of the Scarecrow yet. Great show as always, Dave. Thank you, fast forwards. I haven't yet. It's on the list. It's definitely on the list, my man, but I haven't seen it yet. And Josh Lott sends in $10. Thank you, Josh. Says, also, since we're 3 days removed from Valentine's Day, I wanted to recommend Tom Savage's novel Valentine, on which the 2001 movie is based. Trust me, the novel is 1 million times better. Okay, fascinating. All right. Well, unfortunately, I'm not a big reader. So maybe I can get an audiobook of it. Maybe, I don't know. I'll see, but I will definitely check it out. I will look it up and check it out, Josh. I will definitely look it up and check it out. All right, let me see. I just want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats. I don't want to miss any super chats, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any. All right, let me see, get a few non ones here before I call it a day. I want to get somebody I haven't got yet. Jigsaw 44 says, Dave, impressions of Ace Ventura's speed talking. Oh, I need something. I need a script to say. I don't think I could just do it off the top of my head. I actually can speak quite fast, believe it or not. I did a whole, for Time Warner Cable about 15 years ago now? It was a while ago now. There was about 2 years where I was the legal copy VO for Time Warner Cable on a lot of their radio ads. This has got to be like 2009 or 10. And ordinarily what they do, depending on how much time is left, is they will speed up the voice actor, right? It's called legal copy, is what you're reading. It's the thing you hear at the end. It goes, all the legal jargon. And I was reading that for a while. I'd say maybe 2 years. And they were very impressed with actually how little they had to speed me up because I could read it fairly fast. I think there was a couple occasions where they sped me up a little bit, but they didn't have to do much. So yeah, I can actually read pretty fast if there's a script and I've had time to, kind of mull it over. Okay, let me see. Tyler Adams says, Madame Web trailer looks pretty cool. The premise seemed promising. Tyler Adams. Now, Tyler Adams, that's cool. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Again, and folks, I am not, please understand, I'm not here to say that it's not good. It could be awful. I'm just saying, I just find it interesting. Isn't it cool though, right? How like, there's all this rage about it, but as somebody who has no emotional attachment, I'm just like, I watched the trailer. I watched the trailer and I'm like, okay, so I see the acting and I can see like maybe there's some corny lines, like some tropes, but it just looks tropey, I guess, maybe, like bad acting. Like when somebody says bad acting, I'm thinking of like, I don't know, Motorhome Massacre. Poor Motorhome Massacre. I'm thinking like bad acting, like real, like actually bad acting. You know what I mean? Like fan film in your backyard act. Like that's what like when somebody says that's what goes into my head. But of course it's relative. I mean, maybe this is bad acting in relation to the rest of the MCU. And that's the trick, right? That's the key, right? Is there has to be perspective. And I lack that perspective. So that's why, like, don't take my word for any fucking superhero movie. Don't take my word for it. All right. I think I've got all the super chats. Let me see if I want to get another one. I just want to get somebody I haven't usually got. Okay. Machete Slasher says, I've already seen a couple of short ads on YouTube and other apps using AI voice. It seems to be used more because it's a trend. Yes, for sure. If you are just using it for fun, absolutely. But I can tell you that it's being used. A lot of marketing companies, ad agencies, they are using that, not necessarily for, commercial work. I just did a bunch of spots for Manulife, which is an insurance. Is that a Canadian company? I think it's a Canadian company. A bunch of TV ads. I did about 5 TV ads for Manulife. But that's commercial work, right? Those are TV spots. And so but if it was, say it was like in-house training, you know what I mean? You know how like you get hired for a business, they have training and all that kind of stuff. If it was in-house training, they would probably just go to AI because it saves them money. And because the AI voices, I have to admit this, because the AI voices have gotten pretty good, like again, we are beyond we're beyond that. Some sound like, wow, oh shit, this is AI. Like it's only a moment or two where you realize it's AI. It's perfect for training because you don't need that, real big, it's because it's straightforward. It's ABCD. It is what it is. It's factual information that's being relayed. And as long as the AI voice can relay that factual information in a somewhat not monotone way, then ad agencies and marketing companies will use it, especially for, as I said, corporate presentation, e-learning, training, in-house, all that kind of stuff. Commercial work, that's different. We're not there yet. And I hope we never get there, but it's scary, man. It's very scary. All right, folks. Well, listen, that is going to do it for me for this Saturday afternoon Q&A. I want to thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I had some time this afternoon. I thought, you know what? Let's just make it an all Q&A and jump on and see how you are all doing. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, of course, to my wonderful moderators, as always, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. And, of course, to all my channel members. Thank you very much to my channel members. And by the way, if you want to become a member member here, just hit that join button and become a channel member. To my level number 2 members, remember tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern is our next episode of the Halloween only show, One Good Scare. But you have to be part of level number 2 in order to get access to that. That's tomorrow at 1 p.m. I hope to see all of you there. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. And our next member only Q&A is coming up soon, as well as our next horror movie night as well is coming up soon. There's a couple that I just have to pick one. But I appreciate all of you. Thank you to all the super chats that came in today as well. By the way, Guitarist Dog says, Dave, are you a fan of The Mosquito Coast with Harrison Ford? Yes, it is one of my favorite Harrison Ford movies ever. It's one of his best films he's ever done. I believe that was directed by Peter Weir in 1986, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in there. Love it. But yeah, thank you to all the super chats. Really appreciate it. You are all amazing. And I will be back soon with another McCrae Live or even a pre-recorded video. There's some ideas rolling around in my head of some topics that I want to do, so definitely want to talk about those. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And I will talk to you all soon. Alrighty. Cheers.